Hello everyone, this is Mark with Delta Robotics, and I am here to give you guys an update on our app that we are building called Protoboard. And we made a previous video about this app whenever we had a demo of it that we went and showed off at OpenSauce. We got a lot of great feedback there. People really seemed to vibe with the entire idea of syntax checking for hardware and sort of capturing the entire prototyping process and automatically pairing different types of connections between devices and seeing when there are problems. And that is what we're building Protoboard to do. So I'm here to show you the changes that we've made so far for our alpha. We are now in version 2.2, and we have made quite a few updates working on both the diagramming system itself, which you can see in front of me. We've been working on adding a lot of parts to our library. We have, I think, about 58 parts in our library at the moment. And along with each of these parts, we have also been working on the Protoboard Engine, which can actually determine compatibility between parts and help you configure connections. For example, this I2C connection requires 2 pins actually, even though it's represented as a single line. So when I click on this connection, I can negotiate what pins I'd like to use, which for both of these devices, there's only 1 pin that can be used for I2C, right? But we have been building the Protoboard engine and a ProtoPart specification for each of our parts in our library. The ProtoPart definition includes a reference to the datasheet for each of these parts, and I can click on basically any part that I have here and go and reference its datasheet if I want to understand how the manufacturer built it, what sort of electrical characteristics there are about it, maybe any sort of notes about programming it. This one, for example, is an actual breakout board data sheet, so I can see even some reference circuits for how you might connect it together with some motors and an Arduino. Because one thing that Protoboard isn't very good at right now is actually showing you physically what your system might look like. That is something that we are continuing to work on prototypes for, actually showing you what the individual wiring diagrams between these systems look like. This obviously doesn't look like an Arduino Nano. This doesn't look like a battery. Those are all improvements that we're working on for the future. But at the moment, you can click on any device. You can go ahead and read all of its pins that it has. You can look at whether or not it has enough pins to do the things that it's trying to do. And if it doesn't, it'll go red. And we're refining the ProtoPart definition specification, which is how you connect everything. We're making continual updates to this. In fact, we actually have a ProtoPart repository right now that it's fully open source. We're describing how Protoboard sees components, how it links them together, and we have all of our definitions for every single one of the parts that we have in our library completely open source. So anybody can submit a pull request to add more of them, read about how we're writing them in JSON format right now. And that is something that we're building to be completely open so that anybody can add their components, because that has been a want from the very beginning. So if you want to check out that ProtoPart repo, it is right there. If you'd like to check out Protoboard itself, the link is alpha.protoboard.xyz. You will sign in, and when you sign in, let's put a fake account. It'll just ask you some general information about yourself. And then you can decide whether or not you'd like to subscribe to our changelog. Right now, we are constantly posting updates on that changelog, and that is on our feedback website, accessible through the app, of course. If you'd like to go and look at it, you can actually request parts. You can submit bugs. If I go here, I can actually see we have component requests that many people have added and requested components over the past couple of months. I think that we've got some newer ones in here. Here's a day ago. We are respecting this. We're adding them to our app. And once you created your account, it will then actually ask you for an activation code, which we're actually inviting we're letting in 100 people every time we make a new update just to see how the app improves the experience for people. You will get an activation code that you can use in order to enter the app. And of course, you can join us on Discord and talk to us about Protoboard, give your feedback, and we can even potentially get you into the app early if this is a platform that interests you. But yeah, inside of Protoboard, it is pretty simple. We have a few workflows on the left that we have built in that are sort of our opinionated method of designing a prototype using Protoboard. So the first phase would be plan. This is where you define the name of your project, right? So maybe I want to make a servo-powered glove or something, right? I can write that, I can add a description for it. I can actually add requirements like, hold 50 pounds by itself. The whole point of the planning area is so that you can sort of gather notes about your project, add requirements. In the future, you'll be able to collaborate on this project with other teammates and potentially agentic AI. So this little planning area we wanted to build out so that you can gather all the context about your project in one space. Once you're done with that planning phase, you can then go to component selection, where you can add any part from our library that you desire. For example, the Teensy 4.1, there's a nice one. And you can just go ahead and start adding the parts that you know that you need for your project. In the future, we'd like Protoboard to show you what parts it thinks that you should have based on your project description. That's something that we're going to be working on, and that's what makes Protoboard smart, is when you add multiple parts and you connect them, it'll actually, tell you whether or not those connections are valid and what you have to do in order to finish that connection. So, that's a very nice process. You go in here, you create a connection, you select what you'd like it to be. Maybe I want it to be SPI. And then you go down and you select all of the pins that you want to use for each device. And you can even click this connect button in order to visually link them between each other. If you'd like to change which two are linked because it doesn't make sense, you can actually swap them around in here. But these automatically paired themselves. And once you're finished with your connection, it's green, and you know that green means that these two devices are compatible and that you had enough pins in order to make that connection. Now, if I go to the Arduino Nano and go to resources, you'll actually see the ones that I used for SPI are now taken, and the one that I used for the UART connection as well, D0, that is also taken. So you can see the capacity of your device in here in a super nice, easy to see way. When you're done with your project, you can also go to the purchase area, and we have added prices for most of the parts in our library. Let me see if I can find one where we don't have a part. This one potentially doesn't have a price. So I went in and added some parts that I thought might not have a price. Remember, Protoboard works for electronic devices. It also works for connecting pneumatic devices. And sometimes pneumatic devices will work between each other, and obviously it won't make much sense to connect to a microcontroller, so it actually will tell you, hey, I don't know how to connect this. You could manually say, hey, I want to connect the pneumatic output of this connector to the CAN bus of the Teensy, and it doesn't make any sense, but Protoboard does let you manually select that sort of thing. If I go into the pricing area, there you go. You'll see that for parts that it doesn't know where a link is to purchase these parts, it will come in as question marks. Looks like we have a bug for this one. I highly doubt that Amazon lets you buy it for $0, but I can actually go check that link right here and see that, oh, it just looks like it's out of stock, and that's why it comes in at $0. So that's obviously a bug that we need to fix, but it'll show you the quantity and price of each of your parts as well as where you can buy it from. And now I can see that my project costs $87. I can export to a CSV file if I want to edit this in Excel or do some data processing on it, or or if I have some sort of purchasing process that I have to go through and CSV is a good step for that, then I can use that. Or you can actually export to PDF and go ahead and see, and I can go ahead and look at that bill of materials. There you go. It's a nice little PDF with Amazon links for the parts that we know about with a hopefully accurate total cost for you. One other really cool thing to mention about Protoboard is that once you've gotten your project to a point where you think you're about done, you think that you might want to order it, and you just need someone to review it. And of course, we have the area where you can add a description of your project, requirements, notes. In the future, when we add an AI, the AI could help you validate that your project is working by seeing the errors Protoboard, the engine, presents, as well as just checking to make sure that all of the requirements of your project are met. In the meantime, though, before we have that system in place, we have created a validate button, which will probably live in this left bar in the future. But if you click that validate button, I can actually request that the Protoboard team looks at my project, and I can go ahead and click submit. It'll tell me that the submission was received, and then the Protoboard team will validate your project. That is another really cool thing that I think that we're offering right now, because we want to try to see how Protoboard can be improved, how it can be made more useful, and we want to help you guys actually get your projects completed. So you can hop into Discord, and we have a lot of expertise in robotics and software and electronics and mechanical engineering and 3D printing and blah 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 XYZ in the hardware prototyping space. We have a lot of expertise that might help you out with your project. So if you build your diagram inside of Protoboard and submit your project, we will actually review that for you. Which I will actually just go ahead and give you a little sneak peek in our private channels on Discord. When you submit that submission, it'll actually go to this channel for us to go ahead and download your project and load it up into Protoboard ourselves to review it. And then we'll just reach out to you on Discord or email you back when we're done. So that's something that's, I think, is very cool, and I would take advantage of that sort of feature if I was jumping into Protoboard, and I wanted you to know about it. All that to say, this is Protoboard. We're building it for any sort of project that you might want to design. Even if we don't have a part in our library, you can go ahead and add as a blank and name it whatever you want. Maybe you want to add a nuclear reactor to your project, and that's totally something that you can do at the moment and for the future as well. We're improving the experience of adding components, connections, and visualizing your entire system before you purchase it or export the parts list. And speaking of exports, the last thing that you can do as well when you're done with your project is you can go ahead and create a handy dandy little screenshot of your project and copy it in order to share a nice diagram visual of the system that you are building. But other than that, I think that's about it, folks. This is Protoboard version 2.2. We are working on version 2.3, hopefully to release this week. If you'd like to try it out, please check out alpha.protoboard.xyz or just protoboard.xyz if you'd like to just see our website and join the waitlist straight from there, or get on our Discord, and we will be updating this demo video to our new version very shortly. Thank you for listening. This has been Protoboard, and best of luck with all of your projects.